have so many things to say about toys because when we left Alaska, I'm a teacher by trade, Montessori trained, and I had a little school that I ran. I rented 1,000 square foot house and just had a little in-home center basically so I could be with my kids and do what I loved. And I did not know about decluttering then. And it was probably more overwhelming to have the toy clutter there than it was to have it at home. And the kids were, in hindsight, I didn't understand this until I, got out of that cycle. They were overstimulated. They were overwhelmed. They had way too many choices. They could not go deep in their play, which I think is so important for kids. It's one of the things that I love about Montessori, which I got Montessori trained in Florida after we moved. And I was like, this would have been so helpful. But I forgot what I was saying.
Decluttering toys.
Oh yeah, decluttering toys.
And
so I remember I knew there was a story I wanted to tell, but we moved to Florida with only one suitcase of toys. And I was convinced that my kids would hate me. They would be upset. They would be bored. I really felt like I was being an irresponsible parent by like taking away all of these opportunities to learn. And when we got to Florida, the way that they played was so different and wonderful. With like, I just don't have any other way to explain it. They played with each other. They played for hours at a time. Their creativity just skyrocketed. And I remember the first house that we lived in, we had this big blank wall and they just filled it up with like ceiling to floor because I let them have tape and just tape their pictures up on the wall. And they got so creative and they would create games and storylines with their stuffed animals, which we still have almost a decade later, of all of their little stuffed animals with like birthdays and businesses and storylines and like drama and families and all of these things, because decluttering the toys really allowed them to actually go deep in their play, which I think is much more, I think for whatever reason, honestly, I think it's marketers who make us think that variety is better for kids. They need more opportunities, like more variety, like different textures, different everything. And it spreads them so thin that they don't really get to master their skills, which is a big Montessori concept of like mastery. And I think is something that even a lot of adults are missing, right? The ability to go deep with something and really master a skill or master anything, a relationship, your finances, your health. It's like, what can we jump to next and next and next and next? And so I'm super passionate about decluttering toys too. You don't have to get rid of all of them, just like get rid of some of them.
Yeah. I saw the same thing happen with my daughter, with both of them. I remember the first time, like I was so scared she was going to be so mad at me because I had like gotten rid of like 70% of her toys in from her room. And she was so happy. She played for hours by herself. She loved it. And it kind of like set her, she's actually kind of declutters on her own now in her own room, which is interesting. Daughter number 2 does not do that. So I don't know, maybe it was the same thing, but yeah, like they would just take whatever the toys that were there and go, they would become all the different things. Right. Yeah, I think you're right. Like it's such a detriment to have too much, and you really do see like incredible creativity blossom when you have things like art supplies and like a bag of scarves and stuffed animals, right? Yeah.
And I saw it as well in classrooms because when I was living in Florida, I didn't really know decluttering was a thing or that people did it on purpose, but I always fell into these roles at every school that I worked in as the one to help them declutter their classrooms because they would be having behavioral issues. Kids, they're like, we can't get the kids to play with the toys. They just want to throw the blocks. They just want to smash the markers. And I would come in and be like, just have less. And every time the teachers would be like, but we have so many kids, we can't have less. And every single time, like the very next day post decluttering, they would be like, the classroom is so quiet, right? And it's because the kids actually they weren't overstimulated. They could actually see, one marker to use instead of like digging through and trying to decide which of the 30 markers they should use. So I've been able to see the benefits for kids both in classrooms and at home, and it's universally very beneficial for kids to have less.
All right.
Not nothing, just less.
Catch new episodes of the Mindful Mama podcast and other free resources, including the Mindful Mom Guide at mindfulmamamentor.com. You can listen to every back catalog episode, including interviews with Dr. Dan Siegel, Janla Van Zant, Sharon Salzberg, and get meditations, join our private Facebook group, and more. Go to mindfulmamamentor.com now. I'll see you there.